Okay, here we are. Book 9, Loyalty in Death. Now, this book, we're going to have lots of spoilers. Tons of spoilers. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina K-R-S-T-I-N-A. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And a couple of years ago, I went through and reviewed all the books. These are my comfort books. These are my go-to books. And I didn't read them last year because I had the channel. And I was going bonkers here. I need to read my books once a year. I need to read these once a year. So I decided that I wasn't going to review them. I was just going to share. I was just going to read them to you, share my favorite moments from the books. This book, however, is a little more complicated. It's got a couple of really good moments in it, but it's a little more complicated than the other books. And my reading has been getting out of hand. We've been going way over it. When I did the Stephanie Lawrence books last year, I was keeping myself close to 30 minutes. I have now reached 60 minutes in sharing these books because I just love them so much. I just enjoy these books so much. So, Loyalty in Death. Eve Dallas, J.D. Robb, book 9 in the series. And we've only got one more to go. Witness in Death. Here we go. I brought 10 books down with me, and I did 1 through 10. So we'll do this one. And then I'm going to take all these books back upstairs. Rapture, and an old copy of Naked, and Rapture, and get the next 10. There are 60 books in this series, and we're going to be doing them all. So if you haven't, please go check out my early ones. We started Naked to Death, Glory in Death, Ceremony in Death, Mortal in Death. We've done them all so far. And I will include my previous review also from the kitchen in the description below if you'd like to go back and watch that. But this book, it's a multi-layered plot. It all comes together at the end. There are several loose pieces that come together. And Peabody gets a visit from her baby brother. We finally meet her baby brother. Later on in the series, we will meet Peabody's parents, her mother and father, and they will make several visits in future books. They will make several appearances. So this Cassandra organization is targeting New York City with bombings. The group sends Eve taunting messages promising destruction in the name of justice. As the attacks escalate, Eve must race against time to uncover the group's identity and prevent further tragedy. We also have some what you call it? I don't want to say improvements, advancements with McNabb. And Peabody goes through something with her brother this book. There is also a couple of books later where Peabody really goes through something. It's quite serious for Peabody to go through it. But that's later on in the books. Quite a few books down the road that happens. But she has a very, very serious actually she has 2, now that I think about it. She has 2 life-threatening moments in the series. But we will get to those way down the road. So, Eve is a lieutenant in the New York City Police and Security Department. Roarke is her husband. Somerset is the major domo. You know, I didn't catch any Somersets this telling. That's kind of weird. I'll have to look as we go through. Peabody is her assistant, her future partner. McNabb will be, from this book, Peabody's future significant other. Mavis is Eve's friend, and Leonardo is her significant other. We have Nadine First, who is our reporter, currently a reporter at Channel 75. And we have a visit from Baxter. And we see Feeney, her former mentor in EDD. And we meet Anne Malloy, but she's I'm not sure. She might just be a 1 book appearance or a 2 book appearance. Hold on a second. Oh, and we also, I don't think I'm going to read anything, though. But we do have an appearance by Mira in this book. But she does quite a few consults. But I don't think I have any readings with her. All right. So, let's see. This rich guy dies. J. Clarence Branson. So he dies. That's their murder case. Then Eve gets a call as they're leaving the murder scene. Eve gets a call, from Ratso. Eve looked at the ferret face and beady blue eyes on screen. I'd have never guessed. He gave that wheezy inhale that passed for a laugh. You're right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So listen, Dallas, I got something for you. How about you meet me and we deal, okay? I'm heading into Central. I got business. My shift's over 10 minutes ago, so I got something for you. Good data, worth something. Yeah, that's what you always say. Don't waste my time, Ratso. It's good. I can beat the brew in 10. I'll give you 5, Ratso. Practice being coherent. She broke the connection, swung away from the curb, and headed downtown. I remember him from your files, Peabody commented. One of your weasels. Yeah, and he just did 90 days on a D&D. I got the indecent exposure toss. Ratso likes to flaunt his personality when he's drunk. He's harmless, mostly full of wind, but every now and then he comes up with some solid stuff. So they go to the place, and he tells them what he has, and it turns out that it's really good information, and that's part of the plot. So we're just gonna skip a little bit, but it's all about this guy Fixer, and he was working bombs and stuff, and then I missed the beginning part of it. I don't want to go through it and try and find the actual phrasing. But on the way out, he was tough and sour and would sooner piss in a cop's eye than look at one. If he wanted out of this deal he was in, it had to be way over the top. Nothing would have put this old man off. This was the guy that Ratso was talking about, and he's part of the major plot, so I didn't want to reveal that. But Peabody goes, What's that I hear? Cocking her head. Peabody cupped her hand to her ear. Oh, that must be the sound of you getting sucked in. Because Eve didn't want to get sucked into whatever Ratso had. But it was really good stuff, and it will pertain to the main case. She missed dinner. She was only mildly irritating. The fact that she'd been right about the PA and the plea bargain on Liz Cook was downright infuriating. At least Eve thought as she let herself into the house. The twig could have stuck for murder too a little longer. And this is another thing. The beginning murder was there's a reason behind it. It wasn't what it looked like. There was a whole additional plot behind it. Let's see. Somerset's Roarke's butler slipped into the foyer to greet her with a baffled eye and a sniff of disapproval. You are, once again, quite late. And every single book, Somerset and Eve will snipe at each other. And the days that Eve doesn't respond, there's something seriously wrong. But that's just their way of loving each other. And they will come to terms with that love in future books. There will be polite words in exchange, but they will never stop snipping at each other. They both get enjoyment out of snipping at each other. Yeah, and you are once again really ugly. She dropped her jacket over the new poles. Different is tomorrow I might be on time. He noted that she looked neither pale nor tired. Two early signs of overwork. He would have suffered the torments of the damned before he would have admitted, even to herself, that the fact pleased him. Roarke, he said in frigid tones as she breezed by him and started up the steps, is in the video room. Second level, fourth door on the right. I know where it is. She lied. She didn't know where it was. Um, uh, the man didn't deny himself anything, she thought. Why should he? He'd been denied everything as a child, and he earned one way or another all the comforts he now commanded. But even after a year, she wasn't really used to the house. The huge stone edifice with its juts and its towers and the lushly planted ground. She wasn't used to the wealth. She supposed she never would be. And she didn't marry Roarke for his money, and the money, they will fight over that because Eve won't take it. She will not take it. And in the last book, that's what I forgot to do. I was gonna read that little portion. Eve discovered in the last book that upon their marriage, Roarke had set up an account, and it had like 5 million in it. It was getting quarterly deposits. Eve had no clue about it, and when it was revealed to her that she had this account, she went ballistic. But then she thought of a way to use that account. She gave it to Louise D'Amato to improve her clinic. And we will get an update, not in this book, but in future books. We will get an update on their clinic and what happened and how Roarke got involved. And it's just it's cracks you up. But so then she goes and plays with Roarke in his room, and he's watching a movie, Dark Victory, Betty Davis. She goes blind and dies in the end. Well, that sucks. But she does it so courageously. He gave her hand a little tug and urged her down on the sofa with him. And then stuff happens. Alright, so then, of course, we have McNabb. McNabb is 100% in love with Peabody. He just won't admit it yet. And Peabody, because of her experience with Costco way back in the couple of books ago, she's afraid of getting involved with another cop. And she is hanging out with Charles Monroe, our LC, but they are not having intercourse. They are having a platonic friendship. And in these books, in this futuristic experience, hookers or escorts are licensed. Street people get one license, and then they have tiers. And the ones that can charge thousands upon thousands of dollars are a high tier, and Charles is the highest tier. But he is friends with Peabody, period, end. There is no professional relationship between them at all. But McNabb does not know that. And he does not know that for several books. And it eats McNabb alive that he believes that Charles had intimate relations with Peabody. It irks the life out of him for several books. And Peabody just eats it up once she finally figures out what's going on. So, she glanced up as Detective Ian McNabb poked a head in her doorway. His long golden hair was braided today, and only one iridescent hoop graced his earlobe. Obviously, to make up for the conservative touch, he wore a thick sweater in screaming green blues that hung to the hips of his black stem trousers. Shiny blue boots completed the look. He grinned at her. Green eyes bulged in a pretty face. Hey, Dallas, I finished checking out your victim's links and personal memo book. The stuff from his office just came in. I figured you'd want what I got so far. Then why isn't you report on my desk unit, she said. Just thought I'd drop it over personally. With a friendly smile, he dropped a disc on her desk, then plopped his butt on the corner. Peabody's running data for me, McNabb. Yeah? So she's in her cube? She's not interested in you, pal. Get a clue here. He turned his hand over, examined his nails critically. Who says I'm interested in her? She's still seeing Monroe or what? We don't talk about it. His eyes met her briefly, and they shared a moment of vague disapproval. Neither of them liked to show for Peabody's continued involvement with a slick, if appealing, licensed companion. Which is, just curious, that's all. So ask her yourself and report back to me, she added silently. I do. Gives her a chance to snarl at me. She's got great teeth. And then he goes over to see her. Um, he go, hey, I caught Mavis's video on screen last night. Frigid. Yeah, it's pretty great, Eve thought of her friend, even now on her first tour to promote her recording disc for Roarke's entertainment arm, singing her butt off in Atlanta. Mavis freestum. Eve thought sentiment was a long way from shrieking her lungs out for the zoned and the glazed at the dive like the blue squirrel. The disc is starting to take off. Roarke thinks it'll make the top 20 next week. McNabb jingled credit chips in his pocket. And we knew her when, right? He was stalling, Eve thought, and she was letting him. I'm thinking Rourke's planning a party or something once she gets back. Yeah? Great. Then he perked up at the unmistakable sound of police-issue shoes slapping worn linoleum. McNabb had his hands in his pocket and a look of sheer disinterest on his face when Peabody came through the door. NYPSD came through with, what do you want, McNabb? Multiple orgasms, but you guys copped that one out of the goodie bag. A laugh tried to bubble in her throat, but Peabody controlled him. The lieutenant does not have time for your pitiful jokes. Actually, the lieutenant kind of liked that one, Eve said, then rolled her eyes when Peabody glared at her. Take off, McNabb. Play period's over. Just thought you'd be interested, he continued, that in running the links and memo books of the deceased, no calls incoming and outgoing were transmitted to a female other than his assailant or his office staff. No records of appointments appear in his log for the liaisons, he said, rolling out the word with a smirk for Peabody, other than those involving Lisbeth Cook, who he often refers to as Lissy, my love. No record of another woman, Eve said. What about another guy? Nope, no dates either way, no communication, no nothing. So then he leaves. He's a complete A, Peabody says. Maybe he irritates you, Peabody. There's no maybe involved, but he was smart enough to see that his report might change a few angles on this case. Peabody is just so over the top with McNabb. She's just afraid to see it. Oh, and then Peabody's brother arrives, and he's taller than Peabody. He doesn't look like Peabody. He takes after the father, and Eve gives her time off to do the touristy things. And Zeke is just the innocent. He is a very, very innocent, naive guy. And Peabody has a hard time with him. Then, of course, Eve will forever, until I forget which book, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, will ever be beating up her computers, will forever be having computer problems and hitting that sucker bad. So engage computer. When nothing happened, she frowned and attempted to boot it manually. The screen shimmered. Warning, this unit protected by failsafe. Code proper password or voice print within 30 seconds of this message or disengage. She disengaged. She'd see if Feeney, top dog in electronic division, had the time and inclination to play with him. There was nothing else on the counter but some greasy fingerprints, the dull sheen left by the sweepers, and a scatter of parts she couldn't identify. So she goes into Fixer's place. So she does all that. Then we talk to Feeney. Because she wanted to speak to Feeney in person, Eve swung back to Cop Central. She took the glide up to EDD, hopping off long enough to hit up a vending machine for a Nutribar. I apologize. While Eve watched from the doorway, he plucked a tiny translucent chip from the guts of the computer, upended on his desk. Gotcha, you bastard. And with the delicacy of a surgeon, he slid the chip into an evidence bag. What is it? Huh? Behind the goggles, his hound dog eyes blinked. Then he shoved the goggles up to his forehead and focused on her. Hey, Dallas, this little darling, it's basically a computer. He tapped the bag and smiled at Little. A bank teller with a talent for e-work installed it in her unit at work. Every 20 minutes, a deposit got zipped into an account she'd set up for herself in Stockholm. Pretty slick. You're slicker. Damn right. What are you doing over here? He continued to work as he spoke, methodically tagging evidence. Want to hang out with real cops? Maybe I missed your pretty face. She eased a hip on the corner of his desk, grinning when he snorted. Or maybe I wondered if you had any spare time. For what? And she tells him about the case and the gentleman fixer. So we'll let that go there. And then we run into another person in her squad. We have met this gentleman previously. We will very slowly get to know him in future books. As professional courtesy, she stepped in and hauled out one of the shrieking women up in a headlock, while the detective in charge struggled with her. Thanks, Dallas. Baxter grinned at him. You only sneered. You were enjoying that. Oh, here, let me back up and tell you. She munched on peanuts as she headed to her own office, with the detective's bullpen clattered with voices, curses, and whines from suspects. From the victims giving statements, the incessant trill of links, and the quick screams and scratches as two women went at each other with teeth and nails over a dead man they both claimed to love. Eve found the atmosphere oddly soothing after her trip to EDD. As a professional courtesy, she stepped in and hauled one of the shrieking women into a headlock while the detective in charge struggled with the other. Thanks, Dallas. Baxter grinned at her. She only sneered. You were enjoying that, weren't you? Hey, nothing like a cat fight. He cuffed his charge to a chair before she could slice at him. If you've got to wait another minute, clothes might have gotten ripped off. You're so sick, Baxter. She bent close to the woman's ear. You hear that? She murmured, tightened her grip just a little as the woman continued to squirm like a fish. You go after her again. The guys in the squad are going to get off on it. Is that what you want? No, I just want my Barry back. And the two women start complaining about the guy they used to love. So then, I'm just gonna throw this in because it's part of the case, but it's just one of those scenes that I want a record of. The person that was murdered in the beginning of the book was Branson, and this is another Branson. Peabody calls Eve. Lieutenant Peabody, I figured you'd have your brother out on the town. Try vice versa. On screen, Peabody rolled her eyes. I've already been to the top of the Empire State Building, taken the glide around the Silver Palace twice, gawked at skaters in Rockefeller Center, not under the torches of hell, which she admits she strapped on skates herself. And I walked my feet off in 2 museums. He's dying to do the fly over Manhattan tour. It leaves in 15. Tons of fun, Eve commented as she made her way to the elevator that would take her down to her car. Zeke's never been to the city before. I had to stop him from talking to every LC and beggar on the street. Jesus, Dallas, he wanted to play 3-card Monte. Eve grinned. Good thing his sister's a cop. You're telling me. Then she sighed. Look, this probably doesn't mean anything, but it's weird and I thought I should let you know. Eve stepped out of the elevator into the garage. What? You know how Zeke said he came out because he had a commission building custom cabinets and stuff? Well, it turns out the commission was from B. Donald Branson, who was our peeps in the beginning of the book. Oh, and Branson seems to be is a name that Nora uses over again as the victims in this stuff. It happens quite a few times, and it always bugs me, but we won't go there. So then, later, Eve tells Roarke about the fixer, and that's plot related, so we'll just skip with that. Hey, Miss Smoke. Yes, ma'am. And then they go play with his weapons. Rourke has a room in his house, a vault that's filled with antique weapons, and their antique weapons are from this time period, and maybe a little earlier, because the books take place in 2060. So they play with the weapons, and then bedroom stuff happens. Then Eve wants to go to the will reading. Come here. You want to come up? You want to come up? Yes or no? Come here. Are you going to come up? Come on. What? What? There you go. Now my papers. Um, where was I? 60. So Eve wants to go to the um reading of the victim's will. And she's using Roarke. They've got to go to this thing afterwards. Eve fidgeted in the back of the limo. It wasn't the mode of transport she'd have chosen when she considered herself on duty. The fact was she preferred being at the wheel when she was on the clock. There was something just plain decadent about streaming along in a mile-long limo under any circumstances. But in the middle of an investigation, it was, well, embarrassing. Not that she would use those words, decadent or embarrassing, to Roarke. He enjoyed her dilemma entirely too much. At least the long, somewhat severe black dress she wore was suitable enough for both a will reading and a business dinner. It was a straight and simple, converting her from neck to ankle. Considering it practical, it foolishly expensive. There was no place to strap on her weapon without looking ridiculous. No place for her badge but the silly little evening purse. When she squirmed again, Rourke draped an arm over the back seat and smiled at her. Problem? Cops don't wear virgin wool and ride in limos. Cops who are married to me do. He skimmed a finger over the cuff beneath the sleeve of her coat. He enjoyed the way the dress looked on her, long, straight, unadorned, so that the body under it was quietly showcased. How do you suppose they know the sheep are virgins? Ha! We could have taken my ride. Though your current vehicle is a vast improvement over your last, it hardly provides the kind of comfort, and we wouldn't have been able to fully enjoy the wines that would be served with dinner. Mostly important, I wouldn't be able to nibble on you on the way. I'm on duty here. No, you're not. Your shift ended an hour ago. I took an hour personal time, didn't I? So you did. You can go back on the clock when we get there, but for now. She narrowed her eyes as the car swung to the curb. I haven't gone off the clock, Ace. Move your hand or I'll have to arrest you for assaulting an officer. When we get home, will you read me my rights and interrogate me? She snorted out a laugh. Pervert, she murmured and climbed out of the car. I gotta do this again, excuse me. Okay. Alright. So they go through the will reading. Alright, so let's see what this is. Um Even Rock get close. What was I gonna say? I forgot now. So this organization is bombing buildings all over Manhattan, sending Eve notes about the bombings and taking credit for the bombings, and then bombing these organizations. Um, so there's another one in a couple of books that happens again. Um, but anyways, Peabody was waiting when Eve arrived in her office in the morning. Thanks for the time off, Dallas. Eve eyed the slim vase of flowers, hot roses on her desk. You brought me flowers? No, Zeke did. He does stuff like that all the time. He wanted to thank you for yesterday. I told him you weren't the type for flowers, but he thinks everyone is. I like flowers, feeling slightly defensive about Peabody's take on her. Eve deliberately bent down and sniffed. Twice. What's not to like? So what's baby brother up to? And then she tells him about her brother's day. And then McNabb had admired busily gnawing her bottom lip. Peabody, people manage to do all the things he planning and survive New York City every day. Yeah, I know. And he went over it all the morning 6 or 7 times. But he's just so Zeke. He's so innocent and naive. It just goes over his head. And Zeke ends up in severe, severe trouble. So we won't go there now. Then uh we hear from Nadine. Why did I write Nadine on this page? There's no Nadine on this page. Oh, she's a couple of pages. So they go to a building that's been warned for a bombing, and it bombs. And the car was dense and scorch marks. The windshield a fancy web of cracks. The roof carried a fist-sized hole. Peabody crawled to her feet, coughed at the smoke that was stinking the air. You don't look so good yourself, sir. It was just a scratch. Now, remember, I've mentioned this previously. Eve will go through car after car after car after car. And sometimes the auto people, I forget what the name of them is, will give Eve the crappiest car because they know she's only going to get it blown up or anything's going to happen to it. So they always give her the crap cars. Every once in a while, she gets a good one. We're not going to get over it. And I'm telling you, Eve is going to go through car after car after car after car after car. And I think this is the second or third car at this juncture. But there will be more. We won't get relief on the car until Promises in Death. And I'm telling you, when we get to Promises in Death, we're reading that whole book. That book is my second favorite. My first favorite. That was my first favorite until a recent book. There was a recent book a couple of books ago that turned into my new favorite. But Promises is up there. It's just a scratch, Eve muttered and wiped her bloody fingers on her ruined trousers. No, I meant it as a whole. Scowling, Eve glanced over, then narrowed her eyes. Peabody's face was smeared with black, making the whites of her eyes stand out like moons. She'd lost her uniform cap, and her hair was standing wildly on end. Eve rubbed her fingers over her own face, studied the now blackened tips, and swore. Shit, that caps it. Call this in. Get some units out here for crowd control. We're going to have a hell of a crowd once people get in this area. Crawl out from under their beds and get. At the sound of a car, she whirled, one hand on the butt of her weapon. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or annoyed when she saw the vehicle that pulled in behind ours. What are you doing here? She demanded when Roarke got out of the car. I could ask the same. Your leg's bleeding, Lieutenant. Not much. She rubbed a hand under her nose. I got myself a crime scene here, Roarke. and a hazardous area go away. He took a handkerchief out of his pocket and crouched down, examined the cut before tying the cloth over the wound. You'll need to get that tended. It's full of grip. Rising, he stroked a hand over her hair. Interesting too, and somehow you. She caught Peabody's smirk out of the corner of her eye. She decided to let it pass. I don't have time for you, Roarke. I'm working. Yes, I can see that, but I think you'll want to make time. His eyes were cold and flat as he scanned the smoldering rubble. This used to be my building. Ah, hell. Eve shoved her hands into her pockets, paced away and back again. Hell, she repeated and glared at him. I knew you'd be delighted. He took a disc out of his pocket, offered it to her. He'd already copied the disc and secured it. I received this morning. It was a text message from a group calling themselves Cassandra. And the rest is plot. Then we have a visit from her friendly Channel 75 Nadine First. The building was abandoned. I'm homicide. There was no homicide. I suggest you stroll up to explosive and bombs. Nadine's eyes slitted. It's not your case? Why would it be? Nobody died. But if you don't get out of my chair, somebody might. All right, all right. With a shrug, Nadine rose. I'll go charm the boys in E&B. Hey, I caught Mavis's video yesterday. She looked fantastic. When's she due back? Next week. We'll have a welcome home party for her, Roarke put in. I'll let you know the details. Thanks. You're so much nicer than Dallas. With a cocky grin, Nadine strolled out. I'm going to remember that crack the next time she wants a one-on-one, Eve muttered, and closed the door. Why didn't you tell her? Roarke asked. Eve dropped into her chair. It's going to take time for E&B to scan and sweep the site. At this point, they'd have some pieces and suspect there were at least 6 explosive devices, likely on timers. It'll be a couple of days before I have a cohesive report. And they discuss the rest of the case. Then we meet Anne Malloy. She becomes a very important part of this case, but it's part of the plot, so we'll let that go. What's this one? Oh, they're talking about the urban wars. It's a little history lesson. That's also a little background on the case, so we'll skip this for now. All right, let's see. I'm on it, he rose. Let me put McNabb on the service record. He'll be able to melt through any seals quicker. That's Feeney. She's with Feeney. Peabody opened her mouth, then shut it again in a thin line at one warning look from Eve. Tell him to send data to me as he gets it. Let's ride, Peabody. I want to find Ratso. I can access military data, Peabody said. It's just a matter of going through channels. McNabb can swim the channels faster. He's a show-off, she muttered, and made Eve roll her eyes. I'll take a show-off as long as he gets the job done fast. You don't have to like everyone you work with, Peabody. Good thing. Shit, would you look at this? Eve stopped to study her battered and abused car. Some joker had put a hand-lettered sign on the cracked rear window that read, Show mercy, terminate me now. That's Baxter's warped sense of humor, Eve. Rip the sign away. If I turn this sucker into maintenance, they'll just screw it up. She got behind the wheel. They'll take a month to do it. I'll never get it back the way it was. You're going to have the window replaced at least. Eve pointed and Peabody pointed and tried to squint through the starburst of cracks on her side. Yeah, she pulled out one thing when the car shuttered. Glancing up, she saw the sky through the hole in the roof. Let's hope the temperature controls work. I can put in a request for replacement. This is a replacement, remember? I'm going to get grief for this. So Zeke helps fix it a little bit, fix the motor, but she ends up having to get a new car anyway. Let's see. See. Uh, Peabody says that Zeke wants to see Eve's house. I thought you were going to a play or something tonight. I'll tag him, tell him not to get tickets. I don't know if Roarke has plans. I'll check with Somerset. Shit, all right, okay. That's so gracious of you, sir. Happily, Peabody took out a palm link to call her brother so that her brother can fix Eve's car. So what's on 105? It's another part of the case. So we'll skip that part. Um, Alright, the next part is Fixer's history. And we get another little visit from McNabb. He's running the case, he's doing stuff on the computer. And uh let's see. We gotta get to the keep up the search, she orders. See if you can find anybody he worked with who's still around and no longer military. Somebody who's got transferred with him in the same unit. See if he was SFT. He probably had some part in dealing with Apollo. I'm on it. Hey, Peabody. He wiggled his brows when she came into view and, sliding his hand under his bright pink shirt, mimicked a thumping heart. Asshole, she muttered and stepped aside. Scowling, Eve cut him off. Roarke thinks he's got a thing for you. I've got a thing for breasts, Peabody corrected. I happen to have a pair. I caught him eyeballing Sheila's from records, and hers aren't as good as mine. He doesn't look at my tits, Eve said. Yeah, he does, but he's careful because he fears you as nearly as he fears Roarke. Oh, Neely, I'm disappointed. Where's my data on the vans? And they stopped conversation. Oh, I wanted to read that part where Roarke brings it to Eve's attention. I missed that page. That's in the past, so obviously we can't go back. So then we talk to Mavis Freestone, our best friend in the whole wide world. Hey, Dallas! Mavis Freestone's delighted smile filled the screen. Catch this. Beside the table, a column of air shimmered. Then, in a blink, the hologram image of Mavis standing in the kitchen on shiny ruby heels with bright pink feathers dancing over her shoes. She wore a short robe in eye-watering swirls of the same two tones that drooped off one shoulder to display a tattoo of a silver angel playing a gilt harp. Mag, huh? My room's got this way fine hollow feature on the link. How do I look? Colorful, nice tattoo. That's nothing. Get this. Mavis tugged the robe down her other shoulder to reveal a second angel with a little whip tail who carried a pitchfork and wore a maniacal grin. Good angel and bad angel. Get it? No, but Eve grinned. How's the tour going? Dallas, it's like wow. We're just we're just everywhere, and the crowds are Panic City when I perform. And Roarke's got us the most amazing transport, and the hotel's the ultimate. Today I got this appearance at a music center to sign discs and a bunch of interviews with media. Then a gig at the Dominant here in Houston. It's like packed. I hardly have time to do hair. But you manage, Eve says. Yeah, I manage, but get it all done if Leonardo hadn't come with me. And then Leonardo, her spouse, gets in on the conversation too. Um, and then we start talking case. So then um Eve talks to Roarke. Oh, I forgot this part. One hand to her headphones, Eve moved quietly to the door, saw Peabody hard at work at the desk. With a slight tug of guilt, she slipped back out of sight. She wasn't deceiving her age. She told she told herself she was preventing Peabody from stepping into a shadowy area between the law and justice. Lieutenant, what can I do for you? Eve blew out a breath and stepped into those shadows. I need a consult. Oh, of what sort? Of the unofficial sort. A glimmer of smile worked around his mouth. Ah, I hate when you say that way. I know. Look, I'm not in a position to explain right now, but if you don't have anything on for tonight, I do. We do. You invited guests. I never invite anybody. You're the one. Not this time. Peabody and her younger brother. Oh, hell. Kazika's coming over to fix the car. All right, let's see what else I got here. See. They're going through Roarke's properties. For that one. And let's see. Peabody and Zeke. And hey, she-buddy, they dump you on desk duty too? I'm busy, McNabb. Yeah, I can see that. He wandered to the auto chef, poked. This thing out of coffee? They go drunk, then go drink somewhere else. This isn't a damn cafe. She wanted him out and gone on general principles, and because she didn't want him smirking when she called her little brother. I like it here. Partially because he wanted to know and partially to annoy her. He leaned over her monitor. How many have been eliminated? Get away from him, McNabb. I'm manning this unit. I'm working him, McNabb. What are you so touchy about? You and Charlie have a spat? Charles Monroe, our licensed LC. My personal life is none of your business, she tried for dignity, but something about him always had her back up. She marched over, elbowed him in the side. Why don't you go play with your motherboard? I happen to be part of this team. To irritate her, he plopped his butt on the table. And I outrank you, sweetheart. Only through some obvious glitch in the system. And don't call me sweetheart. The name is Peabody, Officer Peabody. And I don't need some half-wit, skinny-ass E-man breathing down my neck when I'm on assignment. He glanced down at the finger that jabbed twice more into his chest. Then he lifted his gaze. She was mildly surprised to see his usually cheerful green eyes gone to pricks of ice. You want to be careful. About what? About physically assaulting a superior officer. I only tolerate so much of your abuse before I start dishing it back. My abuse? You come sniffing around every time I blink with your some lame-ass comments and innuendos. You try to horn in on my cases. Your cases? Now she's got delusions of grandeur. Dallas cases are my cases, and we don't need you poking in them. We don't need you strolling in for comic relief with your stupid jokes, and I don't need you asking questions about my relationship with Charles, which is completely private and none of your business. You know what you do need, Peabody? No, McNabb, just what do I need? He hadn't intended to do it. He didn't think. Well, maybe he had. Either way, it was done. He grabbed her arms, he yanked her hard, and his mouth was currently doing a fine jam job of devouring hers. She made a sound, something that was reminiscent of a swimmer inhaling water by mistake. Somewhere under his bubbling temper was the knowledge that she was likely to kick his ass the minute she recovered from shock. So what the hell? He gave the moment all he had. He trapped her between the table and his body and took as much of her in as a man could in one long, greedy gulp. She was paralyzed. It was the only rational explanation as to why the man still had his mouth on her instead of lying broken and bleeding on the floor. She'd had some sort of stroke. Oh my God. Who had known any annoying little twit could kiss like this? The blood simply drained out of her head and left buzzing, and she discovered she wasn't paralyzed after all when her arms locked around him and her mouth began to meet his assault with one of her own. They grappled, groping and biting. Somebody moaned, somebody swore. Then they were staring at each other, panting. What the hell was that? Her voice came out in a squeak. I don't know. He managed to suck in air. But let's do it again. Jesus, McNabb. Feeney exploded from the doorway and watched the pair of them jump apart like rabbits. What the hell are you doing? Nothing, nothing, nothing at all, Captain. Holy Mary Maguire. Peabody rubbed his hands over his face, Captain them. We'll all just pretend I didn't see that. I didn't see a goddamn thing. I just know this second walked into this room. Is that understood, sir? Yes, sir, McNabb says. Aren't they just great? I don't think. Let's see what else. Alright, there's more Cassandra. We don't want to spoil the plot. Um, uh, Eve discovers or encounters Peabody after an encounter with McNabb. Uh, do you want us back at Central? No. We've had enough for the day. Reported 800 hours. You got it. Then, following the lecture he'd given himself on and off throughout the day, he made himself look at Peabody. You want a lift home? No. Take the lift, Peabody. You're a mess. No point in fighting public transport at this hour. I don't want. Before Eve baffled eyes, she blushed like a schoolgirl. I think it would be better. I appreciate the offer, McNabb, but I'm fine. You look tired, that's all. And Eve watched in amazement as his color rose. It was a rough in there. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm sure. Well, 800. What's the deal, Peabody? No, nothing. Her head came up shortly, and despising herself, she watched McNabb walk away. Not a deal. Not a thing. Nothing going on. Zip, zero. Zilch happening here. With outrageous relief for the distraction, she saw Roarke step out of the limo. Looks like you've got a lift, a class one. Take my vehicle and go home, Peabody. I'll get transpo at Central in the morning with Eve. It's her and McNabb. They're getting closer. Let's see what this other page is. She's thinking about McNabb. That one. What was this page? She's talking with uh Feeney and Roarke over the case on this one. And the final thing we'll read. What the hell was he doing around last night anyway? I didn't take time to find out. I say that was obvious when Eve only stared at him blankly. Roarke laughed. And you call yourself a detective? He'd been with Peabody. What? With her? They were off duty. Roarke stared at her a moment when she was seriously at sea. With a chuckle, he walked over, cupped her chin, skimmed her thumb over the dent. Eve, they were off duty and on each other. On each other? It took her a beat, then two. Sex? You think they had sex? That's ridiculous. Why? Because it is. She thinks he's a pest. He goes out of his way to irritate her. I know you thought they had something developing, but you were off. She's busy fooling around with Charles Monroe, and he's... She trailed off, thinking of the odd looks, the silences, the blushes, the signals. Oh, Jesus Christ, was all she could say. Jesus Christ, they're having sex. I don't need this. Why should you care? Because they're cops. They're both cops. Damn it, she's my cop. This kind of thing gets in the way. It messes things up. They'll moon over each other for a while, then something going to go wrong, and they'll start spitting and slapping. Why do you assume it won't work? Because it won't. It doesn't. Your energies and your focus get all split when they need to be channeled on the job. You start mixing sex and romance and Christ knows what into it. Everything gets tilted. They've got no business having sex. Cops aren't supposed to. Have a personal life, Roarke says. Personal feelings and choices? I don't mean that exactly, but they're better off without them, she added in a mutter. Thank you so much. This isn't about us. I'm not talking about us. Meaning you're not a cop and we haven't mixed sex, romance, and Christ knows what into it. She pushed a button, all right. She noted and wished she'd broken her finger first. This is about two cops working on my team and on two messy investigations. An hour ago, he talks about what they were doing. That's not what I meant. She got to her feet, surprised to find herself a little shaken. It isn't. Don't put words in my mouth or thoughts in my head. I don't have time for some marital crisis right now. Fine, I don't have the tolerance for one. And they talk about, they finish that conversation. It gets a little personal. But, so, what happens with the bombings? What places get bombings? Someone may or may not die in one of the bombings. And where is it? I just had it. What happens with Peabody and McNabb in future books? It's awesome. I just love these books to death. You gotta enjoy them. I'll put the link in the description for my previous review. But I've noticed they were quite short. And this is gonna be long. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate it. I keep forgetting to ask. Have a good one.